Imagine a wrecking ball swinging toward the only home you've ever known, and inside that crumbling wall, a single photograph falls out. One look at it, and the man holding the controls freezes. Because that photo? It's him. As a child. Standing next to the old man whose life he's about to erase. Stay with me, this is the moment everything changes. The sun bled orange over Willow Creek, a forgotten pocket of the city where cracked sidewalks remembered better days. Harold Jenkins sat on the single step of his sagging porch, running a thumb across the head of the same rusty nail he'd pulled from the floorboards the night his wife died. 32 years ago. Same nail. Same porch. Same creak when he shifted his weight. Across the street, engines growled. A fleet of black SUVs rolled in like crows to carrion. Out stepped Victor Langford, 45, Italian suit sharp enough to cut glass, eyes colder than the steel in his hand. He didn't walk, he arrived. Clipboard. Hard hat. A smile that never reached the eyes. Mr. Jenkins? Victor called, voice polished and poisonous. Time's up. Condemnation order signed. You've got 1 hour. Harold didn't stand. Couldn't. Arthritis had welded his knees into stubborn parentheses. This house held my Marilyn when she took her last breath. He said, voice gravel and grief. You can't bulldoze a heartbeat. Victor checked his watch. Sentiment doesn't pay property taxes, old man. Behind him, the demolition crew fired up the excavator. Its mechanical arm rose like a guillotine. Harold closed his eyes. He'd lost the court battle, the neighbors, the savings, everything but the photograph taped inside the kitchen cabinet. The one he'd meant to grab. The one he'd forgotten in the panic. The first crunch split the air. Wood screamed. Dust plumed. Harold's walking stick clattered to the ground as he tried to stand. A shingle slid from the roof and shattered at Victor's polished shoes. Then it happened. A 2x4 snapped, and from the heart of the wall tumbled a small, yellowed Polaroid. It fluttered, almost in slow motion, landing face up in the rubble. Victor's boot hovered, then stopped. The photo showed 2 boys, arms slung around each other, grinning gap-toothed under a hand-painted sign, Langford and Jenkins, future millionaires. One boy wore a makeshift cape, the other clutched a drugstore camera. Victor's throat clicked. He knelt, suit be damned, and picked it up with trembling fingers. Harold, coughing through dust, squinted. That's my Ricky? Little Ricky from next door. Haven't seen him since. Victor's voice cracked like the house behind him. Since I was 9. The excavator idled. Crew members exchanged glances. Victor stood frozen, photo in hand, city skyline mocking him from the hill where his glass penthouse glittered. Harold's eyes, milky with cataracts, sharpened. Ricky Langford. You used to eat my wife's peach cobbler till your belly ached. Said you'd buy us a castle one day. Victor's laugh was hollow. I did buy a castle. Just forgot who helped me dream it. Flashback, 1988. 2 boys on a tire swing. Harold's wife, Marilyn, waving from the porch with a tray of lemonade. Ricky's mom, single, overworked, dropping him off every afternoon because Harold's house was the only place he felt safe. Ricky's dad had vanished when he was 4. Harold became the father he never had. Taught him to hammer a nail straight. Let him fall asleep on the couch when the fights next door got too loud. Then the letter came. Ricky's mom remarried a man with money and a moving truck. Opportunity in the city, she said. Ricky begged to stay. Harold pressed a Polaroid into his hand. Keep this. Proof we'll meet again as millionaires. They never did. Present. Victor's phone buzzed. Lawyers, investors, deadlines. He silenced it. Harold wheezed. You gonna finish the job, Ricky? Victor looked at the half-demolished house. The kitchen cabinet hung open like a broken jaw. Inside, Marilyn's old radio still tuned to the classic station. A cracked mug that read World's Best Dad, a Father's Day gift from a boy who wasn't his. He turned to the crew foreman. Shut it down. The foreman blinked. Sir, the permits. I said shut it down. Victor's roar echoed. He ripped off the hard hat, hair plastered with sweat. This house stays. Chapter 3: Rebuilding More Than Walls. 3 weeks later, Willow Creek buzzed with a different sound, hammers, not wrecking balls. Victor stood in sawdust, sleeves rolled, calluses blooming on palms that once only signed checks. The house rose around Harold like a phoenix, new beams, old memories. But the real rebuild was quieter. Night after night, Victor sat on the porch with Harold, listening to stories he'd forgotten he'd lived. How Marilyn taught him to parallel park using peach cans. How Harold once walked 6 miles in snow to buy Ricky a birthday cake when his mom forgot. Victor's empire teetered. Investors screamed. Stock dipped. He didn't care. For the first time, his calendar had one red circle: Saturday, peach cobbler day. Then came the diagnosis. Harold's doctor pulled Victor aside. Heart's failing. Weeks, maybe months. Stress'll kill him faster. Victor stared at the man who'd once carried him on his shoulders. Then we removed the stress. He sold his penthouse. Liquidated Langford Development's prized downtown parcel. Bought every house on the block. Turned Willow Creek into a community trust, rent-free for seniors. Named it Marilyn's Place. Harold protested. This is charity. Victor knelt, eye level. No. This is interest. On 36 years of love I never repaid. Spring painted the new porch swing yellow. Harold, frail but smiling, held a fresh Polaroid, him and Victor, arms around each other, same gap-toothed grins. Only now the sign read Langford and Jenkins, future forever. Victor had built a small studio in the backyard. Inside, darkroom, vintage camera, stacks of film. Every resident of Marilyn's Place. Got a free portrait session. Memories, Victor said, are the only currency that never crashes. On the day Harold's heart finally gave out, he was mid-laugh, telling the story of the tire swing to a group of kids. Victor caught him as he slumped, cradling the man who'd once cradled him. At the funeral, Victor placed 2 things in the casket, the original Polaroid, and a deed. The house, fully paid, forever Harold's, now passed to the community. He stood at the grave, voice steady. You kept the nail. I kept the photo. Turns out both were holding up the same wall. Victor Langford never swung another wrecking ball. Instead, he built something stronger than steel, a legacy stitched with second chances. Next time you see an old house marked for demolition, look closer. There might be a photograph inside waiting to rebuild a heart. Hit subscribe, because the most powerful stories? They're the ones we almost erased.